On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
Focus on the things that matter. It's the 80-20 rule, where you
That's
spend
right.
20% of your effort gets you 80% of the results. That's what it is. Stay focused on the stuff that generates income for you. Focus on the important things in your life and try not to fritter away on other things that are just pulling you away from where you're going.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz, Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got a special real estate guest, Brian Penn. Brian, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Chaz. How are you doing, sir?
Incredible. It's Monday. How can you not be incredible on a Monday? I'm thankful for you zooming in with us here from your beautiful Colorado cabin. I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit more about that. But Brian, welcome to the King's table, the King's stage. Tell us what kind of business that you have.
What I've done is just established a real estate business over the years. I started probably in 1994 and stuff after my first postdoc and realized that I had to come up with some other way of making a living. Because
right.
I'm the arcane field that I'm in is kind of igneous petrology. So it's geology. It's kind of fun. It's really super neat. It's all this great stuff. But there's a high unemployment rate with those. And I got involved in real estate because one day I got a flyer that basically said, make money in probate, buying houses out of probate. So I took the last $5,000 that I had and I went to Phoenix, Arizona for a 4-day symposium seminar on buying houses out of probate. And it's kind of a funny thing too, is I got there and there were 50 people in the class. We all paid $5,000 to be there. So it was back in 1995, $94. That was a sizable investment. And so I went and came back immediately, dove headfirst into the probate stuff, and I got a house and got some other stuff out of that business. And then I moved. I was in Colorado at that time, and then I moved to Texas, where probate is really hard to do because it's like moving to Australia, where it's just they really are tight with telling you about stuff. But I called up all 50 of the members because they gave us a list of everybody's phone number and stuff like that. So I called up the 49 other people, and I was the only one that had done anything. I was the only one out of 50. And that's the sad part. There's some professional seminar attendees and stuff like that. But, if you're going to spend that amount of money, that's one of my rules is take a course, find out what it takes to get your money back. And then see how hard that was and see if you want to do it again.
Well, first off, I love that you're in real estate. Real estate's close to my heart. And well, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but off the air, we were talking about the creativity of real estate and how you can be whoever you want to be.
That's right.
You got started in this probate purchasing. So I'm sure we'll hear some more about that. But I want to know at this stage in the game. So you've been doing this for a couple of decades now.
Yeah.
In this moment right here, what I want to know is the burning desire of Brian. Like, you've been successful. I'm sure you've done lots of different types of real estate deals. But why? What's the bigger picture now? Why are you still going? Why are you on the show? What's the bigger burning desire on the inside of you?
I'm just hugely motivated. I don't know how to say that or anything like that. I just find it interesting and fascinating to go out and try different things and try to make money. It's a level of success and everything that I just constantly, there's a constant burning desire. My aunt said that to me. She goes, like, my uncle was very much, I come from a history of ne'er-do-wells. Essentially, we're all criminals and type of thing. I'm just teasing, not really, but if you look at
they were.
Now, my great grandfather came out to Colorado in the 1890s,
wow.
And on a Conestoga wagon. And the family lore is he went back with his own railroad car. He made his money selling razors to the miners. And you can still buy these razors as antiques on eBay. I bought a bunch of them and stuff. Really cool. And so the thing is, he died penniless. He had absolutely no money when he died. And then my grandfather, his son, made a fortune in mattresses, just was very, very wealthy. And he died penniless. So we had to ante up for his funeral. And my dad, not being really much into stuff, he just went to the dying penniless part. And I'm trying to avoid that. I want to have some generational wealth to give on. But what my aunt said was, because she knew my uncle was very much like this, is there's a burning desire in you to do stuff, to achieve stuff. I don't want to sit around, not do things. Every day I get up and say, well, how can I push forward with this? Do I need to send out more letters? Do I need to, because right now I'm doing a lot of advertising. I'm changing. You have to change with the times. Back in 2000, in that time frame, you could pick up a newspaper and people are listing their properties for sale. It doesn't happen like that anymore. You get on Zillow and there's stuff on there. And so, and what I try to do now is I try to gauge the market, because we are entering a new phase in real estate right now that we haven't seen. I survived the 2008, 2012 subprime stuff. That's a lot of what my book is based on, the techniques that I used to survive that. And that was, a lot of it is don't overextend yourself. And so keep pounding away. It's like a PhD dissertation or any big project, or that old saying that says, how do you eat an elephant, is one bite at a time. You write a PhD one sentence at a time. You write a dissertation, you write a book one sentence at a time. But you have to stay at it every day. You have to just stay there, be consistent, and just get a process going, and then learn a technique, and then just find something that's a rinse, lather, repeat kind of thing. If you want to be a wholesaler, find out what works for there. If you want to buy single family houses, then you just have to do that. And that's kind of where I've ended up, is in keeping a lot of single family houses, and just holding a certain amount, paying a certain amount off and stuff, and then moving forward to that. I'm anticipating, and that's part of the reason I wrote the book, is we are about to come up to a point where there's going to be a tremendous transfer of wealth, and you want to be part of that. You don't want to get left behind. And so that's what a lot of my book is written around, is the notion of figure out what your technique is, learn about what you're going to be doing as the market starts to turn. I've been calling people on different ads and stuff like that, like on Zillow, and I'll call them for sale by owner. And I'm listening for when people are desperate. Out here in Colorado Springs, people are still pouring into the city and stuff, saying, oh, I'm going to make a fortune. It's like, it was about 5 years ago, pal. We're starting to lose people coming into town to do that. But there's still a lot of people think, oh, my house is going up all this much and everything like that. It had to be about 2 years ago, I don't know if you've been following the Chinese real estate property management market at all. No. Evergrande was the largest home builder or property developer in China at that point. Turned out they were $320 billion in debt. Well, the 2008 to 2012 market crisis cost the American economy about $6 trillion overall. Wow. Well, the Chinese real estate market, property market is going down the tubes. It has been for the last year and a half. And Evergrande was at the tip of the iceberg. And that number, their economy it's to the tune of $60 trillion. And they're going to take the world with them. And so and we're starting to see that quite a bit now. And we're going to see more and more of that. It's just like, how are we going to deal with that? But this is a huge opportunity for people to step in and help other people. That's the other part of this scenario is, as a real estate investor, you're helping people. And that's what I try to do.
I liked how you've positioned. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of, emotionally charged doom and gloom, but to be completely unaware of what's going on in the market, or this, looming thing that's going to happen, because markets change and they always do. The wave always ends. And so regardless of whether this is going to be the big one that takes everything down or not, because I hear a lot of, real estate or just economy talk, and some it's, nope, I see it charging ahead, and some are like, nope, this is like the end, like the big end, it's all coming down. I think the reality of it is what you said, which seems to be the message across the board, which is there is a transfer of wealth coming. Even the Bible talks about this, is that there's a huge wealth transfer happening. And if that part of it, if you're not in the game, like you said, learning a skill set and figuring out how you can play a piece, then it literally just passes you by. And so I think the message for the listener, whether they're in business or real estate, isn't necessarily like be fearful, tighten up, and don't make moves. It's actually relax, like drop the shoulders, learn, be poised, get in the game, and figure out how you can get your piece. Because everything actually that Brian just said, as far as like picking an area, getting an expertise, like really honing a craft, it's all applicable in business too. That's what I love about real estate and business is like, you're talking about whether you want to be a flipper or a wholesaler or this or that. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, over here in business, guess what? You can pick a niche, and even inside of the business, you can't run the business by being the technician. You can't be in the day-to-day, just like you can't be doing the technician pieces in a real estate business. So a lot of transferable things. Love what you're saying. I want to know of a good decision. You've been in this game for a while now. So I want to know of a good decision that you made that you can share with the listeners that we can go implement into our businesses this week. What did you do that's kind of led to a lot of what you have now?
I would say it's get a good education, find a good lawyer and get a good education. I mean, you can spend a lot of money, but there are also a lot of inexpensive things out there. Obviously, books. I know I work with Bill Bronchek out of Denver. He was the Colorado Association of Real Estate Investors. He has a lot of inexpensive, I'm saying $200, $300, $400 courses you can take. Get yourself in there and find out what you can do, because education is the key to all of it. Learn what you can do that's legal, because I've had a few people here that have done stuff. I had a friend of mine. He somehow during the last 10 years, he ended up getting involved with carrying notes on houses. He'd take over a note on a house and then he'd resell it to someone else. Well, that sounds a lot like a mortgage broker. And the Denver DA said, that sounds like an unlicensed mortgage broker. And so he went after him, and this guy lost 60 properties. He had 60 houses he was doing. He lost all 60 of them because he didn't follow the rules. So learning from good people that know real estate and learning the different types of real estate. And so it boils down to education. You can spend a lot of money, and there are some people that you can go, like there's a billionaire guy, really smart billionaire guy that charges $50,000 for a weekend with him. And some people find it very, very useful. And I just listen to him on YouTube and I go, that's great. I'm good. But then
at whatever level, the education is the tool, right?
That's right.
Tell me what you think about this, because obviously, when it comes to education, you're the one with the PhD behind your name. I'm definitely not. So this is an interesting conversation to be having with somebody like yourself. However, what I feel when it comes to education isn't necessarily what we think of when we think of education. Yes, you can go to school and get a traditional from the book type of thing. But what I heard you actually just say was there's books, courses, events, mentorship, like all of those things that are super practical and at different price points. That's the education that you're talking about that brings wealth.
That's right.
And I would also encourage the listener to understand what education brings. Tell me if you agree with this. This is where I know if we're, if the PhD, really smart guy on the other end of the mic is in agreement with me or not. I don't know. Education for me is knowledge or the understanding of something. Okay, so whatever that is that we're studying. And for me, it brings competence. When I understand something, it brings certainty to this thing, which then gives me competence. And then therefore I act in confidence.
Yes.
So I can go do the deal, right? So I don't hesitate, or I take action, or I take risky moves, maybe even. But it's based on confidence, which comes from competence, which comes from education. Would you agree?
That's right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's really funny how people don't know what's right. I talk to real estate agents all the time. I say, well, I'll just take over this person's note or something, and they'll say, well, that's not legal. And it says, well, there is no due on sale clause jail. Don't worry about that. But there are techniques you can use to do that. And that's how I acquired a number of properties in 2008 to 2012. People were giving me their houses because they had to get out and stuff like that. And I would just take over the note. I had a funny time there was one, because I go, what happens if the mortgage company calls you? So I had a mortgage company guy call me one time. It was hilarious. He goes, so we're trying to find this person who's on the note. And I said, well, I don't know where she is. And he goes, well, you're the trustee. I'm like, Yeah, but she was trying, really was a domestic abuse situation. She was just trying so hard to get away. And so she
Yeah.
just disappeared. Her whole thing was to
Yeah.
disappear. And I'd been paying on this note for about 10 years. And they said, well, we can't have you doing that anymore because you're the trustee. And I said, okay, I'll just stop paying. And they said, okay, never mind. What's your name? Let's put you in.
Let's get you added to the account here, bud.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Is like, oh no, you can't do this, and then you go, oh, I'll just stop paying. And no, we don't want that. So,
Yeah.
and it's, have the confidence of the stuff I learned from Bill Bronchick, like, or people like that, is that you can go in, what they want more than anything is for payment to be made.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I see coming up right now. Is we have a bunch of real interest. We have these way overpriced properties. And my rule of thumb is I don't care how much a property costs. I care about the terms. So if I can take over a note or take over a situation where they have a 2% or 3% loan and I can cash flow the house, I'll take it and I'll worry about everything. Everything will catch up eventually. But as long as, it's terms. I was just talking to a guy yesterday who was about buying his property. And I said, what are your terms? What do you want to do? And the terms, well, if I can cash flow this, I'm good. If I can't, that's when it really comes down to it. I don't care how much you're charging, as long as it isn't like $1 million for a mobile home.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I hope that the listeners paying attention. I want to pause you for a second because what you just said is almost everything when it comes to buying and selling real estate, but also buying and selling businesses. It's terms. And then the encouragement behind that, which I think is just so great, because you started off by saying, play the rules, follow the rules, don't deviate. Which is, I see in you, because I do the same. I value accuracy. Let's do it the right way. Like, there's no sense in being caught later doing something funny. Like, let's just do it the right way.
Right. Yeah.
There's value in that. But I heard a really big but. It's not that we're not doing it the right way. There's just a lot of other right ways.
Yes.
Let's not be so small-minded to think that there's only one right way.
Yes.
We can still play by the rules. We can still grow our portfolios, businesses or real estate, by being creative, is really what you're saying. But even in that, it's like, okay, well, look, there's some opportunity here and we can take advantage of these opportunities, but it's all about terms, is the last piece that you just kind of gave us. So if you're taking notes here, you're paying attention, write down the negotiation is all about the terms. In essence, what Brian is saying is, okay, so this house, for example, is overpriced at $400,000. It's really worth $325,000. Hey, I'll pay you $400,000. If I get the terms that I want, I'll take over your note and I don't have to pay any upfront. And it's it's super easy for me just to put a tenant in cash flow and you get what you want, which is the $400,000. And it doesn't really matter to me because someone else is paying it. Like, there's just a lot of synergies that can happen in that negotiation. And none of it had to do with the price. It had everything to do with the terms and making it cash flowable, or in a business, profitable. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. That's a good summary of what I said.
Love it, man. Well, hey, as long as I can summarize the PhD guy, I just feel halfway qualified here. I want to know of a bad decision that you made, Brian. Let's flip the coin. Tell us something that was just like,
I can tell you right off the bat, I had taken over this note for this property and I was transitioning jobs at that point, because this has never been my full-time effort. I always had a job, and then I would just, and I encourage people to do it that way. Really, what is your level of confidence? And I was making a 6-figure income. I spent my time, I got my own funding for all of my stuff. Whenever I had a job, I was essentially my own business within a large DoD airframe manufacturer. Used to really get the business development people mad because I was getting funding and they couldn't figure out why I was getting funding and they weren't. So it's kind of funny. They said, "We hate you." And I said, "Okay." And so,
nice to know you.
But, I knew that would end, because they're not a real loving and caring group of people. And so if something went bad for me, and the amount of money I was bringing in was $1 million or $2 million a year, was insignificant. It wasn't even in the noise of the company I worked for. So they could easily jettison me and not feel my loss and stuff. So I knew the day was coming when that would happen. And so I said, well, I need to get involved in real estate. And I started when did my postdoc, but then I just kept doing it over the years. And so it matured into that. And so when the time came, I had enough income from the real estate to take care of me. part of what I say in my book is you don't have to be a huge real estate person. Just get 1 or 2 properties so that when you do retire or something like that, you have something to fall back on. Social Security is not going to be enough if it exists when you retire and stuff. So have a couple things that will bring in some money for you and keep you afloat. And that's what so much of it is. That's what I try to encourage people. There are other people that they'll have 800 doors or something like that. And I think that's great. And it takes over, that's what their job is. And that's really, really cool. And I encourage people to find out where in that spectrum you fall, get into that, figure out what type you want to do and move forward with that. And that's probably, start now, because it's not going to get any. Well, it will get easier as if the economy goes the direction I think it will. It will get easier for people, and just keep your pulse on the market and be ready and educated and to jump when the time comes. And that's really just what it's about.
All that's super encouraging. I distracted you from you're taking over this lady's note.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's my fault. I took you. I swindled you away. But we got to hit. We're left here on the edge. We want to know what happened.
I had this house and I was transitioning between jobs. And what I would do before is I would qualify for a loan, which I don't do anymore. And I had invested I'd taken the proceeds from a house that I sold in El Paso, Texas, and invested in this one thing. And I got to the end and my whole option was ending, and I'd invested a huge amount, $40,000 or $50,000 about 20 years ago into this property. And I didn't think of at the time of partnering up with somebody. I should have partnered with somebody. I could have taken this contract and flipped it to somebody else, and they could have given me the money back plus some. So I didn't have enough smarts to do that. And that cost me like $50,000. And that's a heck of a expensive course to learn is why you should have gotten together, even called a lawyer type friend and said, hey, I need to get this financed, or get a short-term loan to carry me over, bridge loans and stuff, or just get someone to invest. And that's where I had messed up tremendously. That's what I would say my biggest failure was. But
I love how you position it though as a course. It's a $50,000 course.
That's what I just took a $50,000 course about how you should get a partner. If you're stuck for money, go out and it's a really good deal. They'll come in and it will, if they can make money. So I think the mindset there, it's easier in real estate nowadays, I think, but for the business guys listening that don't know real estate and how easy it is to collaborate, you hear in business it's difficult, like stay away from partners and this, that, and the other. And maybe on a real estate transaction, it's maybe a three-year deal and you're going to hold sell, whatever. Or maybe it's a 1 year flip. I don't know. So it is maybe a little bit more transactional in certain circumstances, but the principle remains the same, that in business, you're closed-minded when you think you've got it all, or that you want to hold on to the whole pie. And so I think really the principle that you're dropping here for the listener is be open-minded to the things that you don't actually have in the ingredients. Don't be so pompous to think that you got it all. And actually someone else probably has what you're missing and can probably do it a whole lot better than you. And you partnering up together with that person on a business or a real estate deal or a short-term or a long-term transaction can be extremely powerful. Yes. And it can save your butt too.
Exactly.
You get to the end and you go, hey, what? I should have done something, and you realize that a year or so later, it's like, I really should have done that. I should have reached out to people around me more and said, hey, I'm kind of coming up against something here. What do you think I should do? At least go out and seek advice from people that you consider, as mentors and things like that, or just people that are successful, because they'll give you ideas. And I kick myself every day, not every day. I did at a point.
It's honest. Well, you said before we hit the record button that you've been to, I don't know how many real estate meetups for the last 25 years, but it's like, okay, or 30 years, it's like you start not hearing the same things over and over, but you start putting yourself in positions to be able to learn the things without even having the partner, if necessary. Like you just said, sometimes it doesn't take partnering. Sometimes it just takes you educating. And that could be a course. That could be a meetup. That could be a mentor. That can be a peer-to-peer mastermind group for real estate or for business. That's why Gathering the Kings exists. What I'm saying to you is, or what I'm saying to the listener is what Brian is saying to you, is that you have to sometimes fill the gap with other experience, other knowledge, other, pieces. And don't be so naive to think that you got it all. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, I give talks on the Spanish Peaks, which is my field area down in southern Colorado. And part of it is I always people go, "Oh, you know all this stuff," and I don't really know anything. It's just fun. It's like you get a bachelor's degree, you think you know everything. You get a master's degree, you realize you don't know everything, and you get a PhD, you realize you don't know anything at all. But it's okay because neither does anyone else.
I think that has got to be one of the best descriptions, and only you as a PhD can actually say that, because it would sound odd for someone like myself who doesn't have a PhD to say that. But I would say the same thing for money. I would say that the more money I've made, I realize that the more money I don't have, right? And the more wealth that I generate, I realize how far it's really not going to go. You talk about legacy and leaving something for your family, which your dad and grandfather and great grandfather weren't able to do. I mean, if I'm actually trying to set up the next 3 generations, there's a certain number that goes along with that. And I had a podcast guest probably, I don't know, 9-10 months ago. And he was like, I'm preparing for 4 generations. I have all the documents. I've worked with attorneys and CPAs. We know the number. And like, that's why he's like pressing so hard in his business, is because he knows the exact number to take care of 4 generations. It's like, okay, well, there's a real number to that. It's not just like, hey, let's just go and leave something. It's like, depending upon what this target is, there's a real number to this. And that's okay. Because you realize along the way, just like with education, that the more you know, I don't know anything. Or in this case with money, it's the more money I've made, I'm going to realize, well, that's really not going to go very far. I should probably double down. You know what I mean?
Yes. Buy real estate, and that'll go for generations.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have friends here in southern Colorado. They bought up their family bought up essentially a whole town of Trinidad, or owned a huge piece of Trinidad, and they're just living off of that. They're 3 or 4 generations down the road, and there was 100 years ago that his family came from Italy over to Trinidad, which is a big coal mining, because a lot of the coal miners were from Italy. Then they end up buying a bunch of the downtown. They still own it, but it's like, well, neither of the 2 guys left have children, so it's going to go somewhere else. But it's kept them sustained essentially their whole lives. Stuff. So they've been very, and I'm trying to think, they just helped out with their money and stuff and spread it around and just shared their wealth at that point. So it was really nice. Yeah. So then maybe that's what you get down to.
It's encouraging to know that immigrants came and had nothing, I'm sure, especially if they're coal miners back, 100 plus years ago. And what that should do is it should transfer courage right now, because even though the person listening right now might be 1st generation wealth like me, right? Like you, it sounds like, even though you had wealth in the generations before, none of it was passed on. So it's like, okay, well, I had to reestablish and I had to go get it myself. Okay, fine. That may be the listener right now. It's not too late to create generational wealth at whatever age.
Exactly.
Because that's a great example of somebody coming over having probably just really like a hope for just something more, not really a definite aim, no real we're going to be super wealthy with real estate. Like they just were looking for a better life,
Yes. And that's what so much of it is. And that's why people came here and stuff. And so it's really, really an interesting thing to watch the generational stuff happen. And you watch to see what people did in the past. And there's so much of it that you can just hard work, dedication, and getting your foot in the door, and then seeing what works. Find a small niche, find a small circle of things that you can do, and then just keep doing it. Rinse, lather, repeat. And that's, kind of the thing can you find something that's going to help someone? And if you can make a little money on it, that's good. And then just create a cycle there, and just work forward with that, and just keep doing it. Do what works for you and works with your personality. That's so much of it is.
Yeah, I held an in-person event at my house this past weekend. We had some entrepreneurs here, and one of the examples that was given, one of the leadership team members of my team, Gathering the Kings, he has a good friend that had a multiple 8-figure exit in a trash company. And he was coming close to the end of his contract, his non-compete, and my team member was asking his buddy, what are you going to go do? You go do whatever. He's like, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to go start a trash company. He's like, what? I already know how to build and exit out of a trash company. Why would I do anything else and take the time to relearn it and all this stuff? Everything that Brian's telling you is exactly what happened in that example of the trash guy. It's like, hit the thing that you know, create a process, do it over and over until you become successful. And in that case, he sold it and still waited to do it again. The same, hit the cycle.
I met a guy that started accounting firms like that. He would start an accounting firm and then he'd build it up and then he sold it. And then he'd start another one, build it up and sell it. And he was just really good at that. And so that's how he generated. Of course, he did some things that were wrong and he shared those with me. I won't share that with you, but
there's always opportunities along our journey to do things the right way, as we've discussed. Hey, Chaz, Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9-figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon.
Yeah.
I want to know, inside of my speed round here, Brian, my first question is around KPIs. And so I want to know what's the most important thing that you track in your real estate business? If you could only pick one thing to track forever and ever, what would it be?
I track the cash flow. I look at the cash flow. I look and see what's going to, as long as I've got this cash flow, minimum cash flow coming in, I'm good. And so it's like right now in Colorado and probably everywhere, they're reevaluating properties. Properties have gone up 200 or 300%. And so the property taxes are going up 200 or 300%. So I'm like, okay, I am now going to have to, and I've talked to a bunch of the tenants and I said, look, I had enough of a buffer there between what you're paying and what I'm paying to keep some numbers that I want to have. And now that the property taxes are going to just been reevaluated, they're going to go up. And I said, I'm just going to pass that on to you. I said, by the way, your rent is going up because they're raising my rent or they're raising my insurance or whatever. And the insurance will go up too as the valuations go up. So, it's like you just have to track that, stay on top of that. I look at stuff on a monthly basis and I use some various metrics, but I just kind of say, well, what's the cash flow doing here? And am I meeting what I need for myself? But, I want enough of a buffer there. So I would say that it's just keeping track of the cash flow is really important. Return on investment, that could be one way to put it, but just what's the amount of cash flow I need to maintain the business?
You can't pay your tenant to live in your property.
Apparently not. Although I think,
I guess you could.
Governor Polis thinks that's a good idea. Although he never shares his $800 million with me.
Yeah, exactly. In commercial real estate, because obviously I own some franchises and have been in the lease space for a long time, but they're quite frank about it. Not only are you going to pay the rent, you're going to pay all the insurance, you're going to pay all of the property maintenance. You're like, literally, the commercial real estate owner pays nothing. It's all covered by the taxes, and it's all broken down right there on my lease. Here's my rent, and here's all of his expenses or her expenses.
I'm seeing that a lot here. Like we're in a place called Woodland Park, and I'm seeing a lot of people moving out to smaller things because the rents are going up so fast. A lot of coffee shops, pizza places, and stuff like that. And they're just like, well, we can't afford here anymore. So they're moving around. And so we're seeing a big increase from a commercial side of rent increases because I would say the property taxes are going up, the insurances are going up, and they're not as competitive as they used to be for people that are starting a business. So that's what you have to look at. But because like I said, I'm seeing a number of businesses that are in these large, what I consider commercial buildings, strip malls and stuff like that are exiting because of that. And you can't fault the property owner. They're trying to get their return on investment and stuff like that. So, but what you're saying is 100% correct.
Yeah, it's a big game, that's for sure. But it just depends on what end of the game you're playing. Okay, I want to know about a business resource or a real estate resource, book, podcast, event, name. What has been helpful to you that you can share with us that we can go digest and get some education?
The stuff that I would just say, just being involved with different real estate investment clubs, as many as you can. And they like here in Colorado Springs, there's one like the one Brent Bowers set up, and he's kind of moved to Florida, but a couple other people are carrying it on. And you go there, and they all have sort of a different sort of flavor. Like that one is more like they have a monthly meeting, and they're not selling anything. And so,
Yeah.
but it's just going to get together with people and just keep the communication going with different investors. And then there's another one called, I think, iCore Investment Community of the Rockies. And you go there, and it's a smaller group, but they're always selling you something. They always have a course, and every meeting is a selling a course, and that can be useful too. And so then so just plug into different groups and just stay in touch. My website, which is Real Estate Success, the number 4 and the letter U, I put all the stuff about what's happening in the Colorado Springs market. I put on there what's happening in the state legislature, because we're seeing a lot of pushback on real estate investors from the state legislature. They're putting these different laws in place. And I've had tenants come back and say, "Well, no, you have to give me 60 days to do this or that according to the state." But unfortunately, I have on my website, it said, "Oh, you're talking about the CRS Colorado Revised Statute 3812-701, and it actually isn't what you think it is. It's not like I got to give you 60 days. It says there's got to be 60 days before I can raise your rent." And they said, "Well, but you missed that part where it's only if you don't have a lease." And I have leases with everyone. And I said, I'll give you 60 days, but I don't have to legally do that. So I try to provide that information. This last year has been horrendous for Colorado in terms of the different legislative agenda or bills that have been passed. And so they're really causing a lot of trouble for certain real estate investors and stuff. And
Yeah.
so what I try to do is on my site is I say, okay, here's this part that Colorado's doing, or here's what's happening in the world. Cause I'll blog, like I told you about the Evergrande collapse of $320 billion property management company in China that collapsed, and it's going to cause world implications around the world, that type of thing. So those are the kind of things that I would say to do. Kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm hearing you say not only educate yourself with courses and events and meetups, but also be a conduit of education, which is really king mindset. It's, well, I'm not going to just gather it for myself. I'm gonna help those that are around me, whether it be via a website and a blog, or whether it be a podcast. There are ways for us to be able to take what we've learned and grown and been successful with, and to be able to give it away. So I just so appreciate that. I think we should pass that along to the listener as well.
Yes.
I got a question for you about family, Brian. I'm a huge believer of work-life obsession, not balance. And for me, it is a matter of being obsessed with my family just as much as it is my business, because that's what's made me successful in business and real estate.
Yes.
And so give us some examples along the way where you've been obsessed with your family as much as your business.
Well, it's one of those funny things. I get a kind of an interesting take on that, because people go, "Well, you have all your kids," and my kids are pretty much all grown. They're in their 30s and late 20s and stuff like that. And I never went through a period where they actually still say they love me and they still like me. And they go, "Well, you raised these kids. How did you do that?" And I say, "I don't really know. I don't really know how I did that." And part of it is to be genuine, be a parent. And it sounds like you have a biblical understanding of what being a parent is about. And it's not about being their friend. It's not about anything like that. It's making the hard decisions when the time comes to help them. Because if you're a buddy with your child, well, you can't be a buddy with your child. You have to do that. And then when they're 25 or 30, they'll say, "Hey, you're a lot smarter than I thought you were when I was growing up." And they'll be one of your best friends because you helped them, you guided them along the way. And so it's not done on a big scale. Nothing's done on a big scale. It's done moment to moment.
So good.
And it's a reflection of your personality and your values and how you value them. You go to their games or you do stuff like that. And I was like my daughter, she ran cross country for Western State. She ran varsity the whole 4 years she was there. They were national champions a couple times. And so she was really good at that. And I knew her in high school, she was running in high school and stuff. And so I come from a family of runners. We've all been distance runners. My brother and I were distance runners, and we were pretty good at what we did. And so like my brother, his first marathon at the time when he ran it was like the fastest first time a marathon by an American at like 2:17. Wow. He ran his first marathon at 2:17, and people don't know marathons. Wow. That's actually a pretty good time. And so not compared to now, they're 5 minutes or 10 minutes faster, but it's at the time and stuff like that. And so my daughter she came up to me one time. She goes, Dad, I really like basketball. I really want to do some basketball and stuff like that. Championship team. And then, but what I ended up saying was, go try basketball. Go ahead, because I didn't want her to get through high school and college and go, hey, I really like basketball. My dad held me back from being a basketball player. She went on the team. Here she was third string on the basketball team. And she goes, I don't really like this. And so, but the good thing about it, I wanted her to take the time to learn something else, try something else. Maybe you'll like it better than doing all this running stuff. It's crazy, and stuff. And so she was able to,
so true.
She goes, well, Dad, I was just so thankful that you didn't give me a difficult time to, here I was running and I was pretty good at this running stuff, but you said, go try the basketball, do it. And so she's been very grateful for that and stuff. And that's what I try to do with my kids was it's a moment by moment thing. You laugh with them. I mean, I've been on different podcasts where they'll say, who would you like to have dinner with? And they'll go George Washington or something like that. I get a kick out of that. Like, yeah. And what I realized is my answer should have been, and it had been a number of times, is I want to have dinner with my family because they're the people I laugh with. And George Washington might think I'm a jerk, by the way. Or I might think he's a jerk.
Yeah. Well, the perspective there, or really just, I think poise is what I'm gathering. Just a healthy perspective, I think is really good for us to hear as entrepreneurs listening to you. And it's real. I had a podcast guest, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 weeks ago. I think he just came out today. Regardless, he said, execute on the cliche. Mm-hmm. Everything that you just said, this moment by moment, laughing at the dinner table, like that's what it means to be obsessed with your family. It's every single night without a fail, unless I'm not here, I'm downstairs at 6:30 every single night. And we have a whole evening routine. We read the Bible together, we pray, we get ready for bed. They have affirmations on the board that I created with them. They read them, they look themselves in the mirror. Like we do this thing every single night. So much so to where it's like, if we didn't do it, it would be odd. It would be weird. And so we built in these structures inside of our own family that are the moments by moments, executing on the cliche. Because you can just say, be with your family, turn your phone off. You can say all these cliche things and they mean something unless you don't go execute. Right?
Yeah. Implement. Just do it every day. That's what it's all about. Just make sure that, and I do this still with all my kids is every time I hang up from them, I tell them I'm proud of them and I tell them I love them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I have even noticed at 9, 7, 4, and 11 months, maybe not quite with the 11-month-old, but with the other 3, when I say, I'm really proud of you, or I love you, or I'm excited for you, whatever the emotion is that I'm expressing towards them in that moment, like you're describing, even at a young age, it's you can watch their whole countenance change, especially coming from their hero, mom, dad, whatever it is. So I think that's so powerful. Brian, I have one last question here for you, brother. You ready?
Oh, cool. Yes.
I want you to tell me, if you could reach back into time and whisper into the younger Brian's ear, what would you tell him?
Run the mile. Run the mile. No one cares about any of the other stuff. Do the mile. They care about the mile, the marathon, and 100 meters. If you can't, and that sounds joking, but just I have a positive attitude about stuff, and that's just permeated everything. I'm willing to take a risk because I think that something positive is going to come out of it. And but as I jokingly say that, it's like, You just run the mile, because nobody cares about the 2 mile or the 5,000 or anything like that. They want to know how fast you can run a mile. So that, and I'm probably out of the thing, but focus on the things that matter. Focus on, it's like the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule, where you
That's
spend
right.
20% of your effort gets you 80% of the results. That's what it is. Stay focused on the stuff that generates income for you. Focus on the important things in your life, and try not to fritter away on other things that are just pulling you away from where you're going. And so maybe that's just stay focused on the important things and the things that matter.
Well, if you're not paying attention and that didn't like just hit you straight through the eyeballs there, then I don't know what to tell you, good listener, because Brian just gave it to you super straight from a sage, somebody who's been doing this for decades and has been successful and has graced us with just the knowledge and value here today. I want to thank you for being here and giving us all that knowledge and opportunity to learn from you. How can we continue the relationship with you if we wanted to? Number one, if we wanted to do a deal with you or get to know you better in a real estate space, or maybe even have you mentor us, or if I'm just an entrepreneur and I want to get to know you better, how can I find you?
Well, like I said, it's on my website, which is Real Estate Success, the number 4 and the letter U.com. And it has my book, it has links to my course, and just all the stuff, how to contact me. Kind of try to coalesce everything I understand about Colorado real estate and all the stuff here, that tools you can use and perhaps need to get involved in real estate, and just find out what's happening in the world, what's happening in the state legislature. So what's some of the best things you can do to move forward. And that's really what I try to help people with, is helping you find a niche. And so it's basically all at my website. Even my personal phone number's on there, as scary as that is.
Scary, I have found, as you mentioned earlier, is what typically gets us what we're looking for. Even though we might be a little scared, we take the action anyway. What'd you say, as long as you're 10% scared? So I appreciate the information that you've given to us here today. We wish you nothing but blessing on your family and your business, all your properties. Thank you for being here with us, Brian.
Thank you so much, Chaz. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically, who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe: that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.